Hello everyone. This is a video overview explaining how to participate in the peer review activity for the Intigrove paper. When I open this folder for the peer review groups, you'll be able to see the link that applies to the group that you've been assigned. So it's kind of like with the Google Share folders, you can only see the group that you belong to. I'm going to click into group 1 to illustrate. This is what you'll see when you first click in. There are basic instructions on the left, an assignment sheet. There are some sample peer reviews here and a note right above that explaining that these peer reviews are on another work of literature, but they do illustrate the kind of thing you need to do for the papers that you'll be assigned to review. So let me click on one of these for a moment and just kind of go through what the general expectations are. So this particular draft is also about 4 pages, which is roughly what yours is too. And the general rule of thumb is we want to average at least 3 comments per page. We want to comment on every single paragraph or section in the paper. So we need comment on the introduction, the conclusion, and some comments on each of the body sections. Now, do keep in mind that some of the body sections might be more than one paragraph. You can have a point that goes on for as many paragraphs or pages as you want, but when you start seeing that you have a really long paragraph that exceeds by very much half a page, then you need to start looking for a place to break it up. So for example, if in your draft you have a paragraph that goes on for a page, page and a half, you need to break that up into maybe 2 paragraphs if it's a page long. If it goes a page and a bit more, you'll have to see, do I have enough for a 3rd paragraph there, or do I leave it in 2? But we want to avoid those page, page and a half, 2-page paragraphs, because the point of paragraphs is to chunk information to make it easier for readers to process. So those points can be as long as they need to be, but you just need to break them up into manageable paragraph size, about half a page, give or take. Can be a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. Now, when we're making the comments, we do need to make sure that we're focusing on concrete, specific, actionable advice that's aimed at helping somebody else drive the revisions for draft 2. So remember that all of the papers in this class, we go through 3 drafts. The first draft is just kind of getting it down on paper, following basic directions, having a baseline of something to work with. Draft 2 is focused on revising what's there. You're not necessarily starting over, but you're taking what's there and you're looking at each part and you're evaluating and figuring out, what can I do to make this point, to make this paragraph, this section of the paper more effective, even better than it is already. So draft 2 is about improvement and about showing concrete revisions through a very specific process that I'll show you later, and that's already reflected in the written lessons if you've read ahead. All right, so what we're focusing on is comments that are related to improving the argument. So we're not looking at spelling, grammar, and punctuation. We're not looking to just praise and say, oh, I really love what you did in the introduction. So praise comments are nice to hear, but they're not very helpful in terms of helping somebody figure out what or if something could be improved in a given section. So keep that in mind. Those won't count in what I'm looking for in the minimum of 3 comments per page. I'm looking to see, are you demonstrating an awareness that you actually know the text of the story? Can you make concrete, specific suggestions based on that and based on what you know about the assignment? And can you also step outside your own viewpoint and opinions to help somebody else who may be writing from a different vantage point than you? So the goal here is not to nitpick and it's not to point out faults. And if you do see something that is unclear or maybe it's just plot summary, well, you can certainly point that out, but then you need to provide some kind of concrete suggestion for what could improve that aspect of a given point. And here's one example here. Notice that this student is using quotes in her paper. Again, this is on a different work of literature. This is on a play, not the short story you're reading, but the principles are the same. But she didn't follow the conventions and requirements that are listed in the lesson. This student processed the lessons very deeply, and he knew how to do it, and so he shows her an example of how to do it. And so once she sees that, she can go back and review those lessons or examples or the sample paragraphs that I did, but she can also see it here and just apply that moving forward. But other than that, we don't really want to comment on technical things, spelling, grammar, punctuation. It's focused on content, execution of the argument, connecting of the dots to concrete specific evidence in the text, and running with the ball, doing something with the evidence. Not all of the evidence in the paper is going to be in the form of quotes, though. Obviously, you're going to have some paraphrase of very specific things that happen in there to set up a point. But if you recall from the lessons, one of the conventions for this paper, which is a primary source literary paper that is just based on the story itself, no outside research, it's required that we have a fair amount of really well chosen quotes that are naturally integrated into our own lines and cited correctly with just the page number in parentheses. You're not going to put Akutagawa. I talked about that in the lessons too. Normally you would put the author in a parenthetical note for most papers, but a primary source literary paper is a little bit different, since you have to identify and introduce the author and the work that the paper is based on in the introduction. It's understood that all of the quotes will be coming from that story and that author, so we're allowed to leave out the author's last name in the note. So basically, I highly encourage you to look at the peer reviews for one of these files, just so you can kind of get a sense of what the expectation is. All right, so let me close that and explain the rest. This happens to be a group of 3, and anytime you're in a group of 3, it's kind of a no-brainer as to whose papers you're going to read. You're going to read the other 2 that aren't yours. For groups of 4 or more, and we do have some of those, the pattern is that you skip the person after you in this list and do the next 2. So if I were Crystal and this had 4 or 5 people, she would skip Solomon and do Aubriana and the next person. That's the pattern. But in groups of 4 or 5, I'll also spell it out over here. I'll literally say, Crystal, you need to read so-and-so and so-and-so's paper. And then I'll say, Solomon, you need to read so-and-so and so-and-so's paper. So I spell it out, but I just want you to know the pattern. So in the off chance that I happen to forget to spell it out in a group of 4 or 5, you automatically know what the pattern is, which is to skip the person after you and do the next 2. But this is a group of 3, so they're just going to read each other's papers. Super easy. Let me explain the pass-back column over here. So these are the columns where once you're done with a peer review, you're going to come over to the column for the student that the review belongs to. So let's say if I review Crystal's paper, then I'm going to put my reviews for her here. I'll click on the plus button. I'll click on the upload folder, and I will pull in my peer review and post it there. Now, before making this video, I did a quick little fake one here, and I pulled in a fake review for Solomon, and I pretended to be Crystal. I just used that as an example, and I'm going to post those there so that later the student whose reviews are in that column, they can come here and download them, print them out, and get a pin out and circle the comments that you agree with, that you're like, okay, yeah, they have a point here. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to consider this as I'm revising that part of my paper. And you're going to cross through the comments that you're like, well, I appreciate this comment and the effort, but I don't agree with this one. So when you get your peer reviews or your tutor review or even your AI review, the point is not to just do what you're told. You have to, just like when anybody gives you advice in life, you have to weigh it. You have to consider it and evaluate whether you agree with it and whether you think it's advice worth taking. And if not, then you go with your judgment. But it's just getting other perspectives on something that that may be helpful. And I will say that if you get assigned to a group where students are as dedicated as you are, it can be one of the best things that we can do because we've all read the story. So in that sample peer review that you saw a minute ago, you saw how much time and effort that student reviewer spent on that paper, and he was very well versed in the story that that essay was based on, and he was very well versed in the assignment, good critical thinker, and so he always did really good reviews. And sometimes I've had reviews, even on the very first time that we do this, that are so good they rival or exceed what the tutors can do, because oftentimes the tutors will not be familiar with the given stories or the given articles that maybe students are writing a paper about. So they can still give good feedback, but they may not be able to give good feedback from the vantage point of somebody who is familiar with the underlying story or article that you're writing about. So we're uniquely positioned to be able to give each other really good advice for the paper. But that's where you're going to pass them back to your classmates. So if everybody in the group does what they're supposed to, everybody will upload their 2 reviews for their classmates to the columns that belong to those students. So Crystal's both reviews will be here. Solomon's reviews will be in his column. Adriana's reviews will be in her column. And this is where they'll come to download their reviews and kind of figure out if they agree with the advice that's given there. And recommend that you print them out again so you can sort of circle or check the comments that you agree with and maybe mark through the ones that you don't. You're also going to turn these into, and I'm going to bounce over here to the course in just a minute, and let me scroll down a little bit. And I haven't opened it yet, but this is going to be the assignment link for the peer review. And I just need to finish typing up the instructions for that. But this is where you're going to turn in your reviews to me, because I don't have time to go bouncing around the Padlets to find in the different columns to find the 2 that you did and then navigating back to the gradebook. It just doesn't make sense. So you're always going to turn peer reviews into 2 places. Once to your classmates in your peer review Padlet, and once to me in the assignment link. I only grade them in here, so if you want me to grade them and you want to get credit for them, it's really important that you remember to turn them in here. But likewise, it's important that you remember to turn them into your peer review Padlet, because if you don't, then you're likely to end up shorting a classmate that did a review for you. And I will say something that's kind of common sense. We all have access to Pronto. So let's say there's a person in your group and you're like, oh, I got one review but not the other. It could be that they just forgot to turn it in, and maybe they turned it in to me for the link for the grade, but they totally forgot to put it in the Padlet. Well, use a little bit of initiative and go into Pronto and message that student privately in a DM, in a direct message, and say, hey, so-and-so, I'm just checking to see if you did my peer review because I didn't see it in my column in the Padlet, and I don't want to miss out on your advice. So if you have it, could you please post it? And you can kind of find out, because sometimes students have just forgotten and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, sure, let me go and grab that. And if they forgot, then they can say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't do it. And then at least you know. All right, so it's turned into 2 different places. All right, so I want to show a couple of other things in terms of how to do this. So let me go back into the Padlet and show the process. Let me go to the shared drafts folder. Let me scoot over a little bit. I think I scooted over too far. There we go. And I'm going to click on Saul's paper to show you how to download it. So if I'm assigned to read Saul's paper, which both of the other students in this group are, I would come over here. I'm going to click on that file, and then I'm going to come over here to the ellipsis, and I'm going to click on the download attachment file. And I have already downloaded this to the desktop or to my downloads folder, but you click on that so that you can download it. and then you're going to navigate to your shared folder, and I already pulled that into a share folder, but let me show you what I did. I went over here, I'm in my shared folder, I navigated to that. You can navigate to that from inside the course in the folders that I provided there, and you should also be able to access this from inside your Google Drive account too. You should see your own shared folder. But what you do is you click New, you click File Upload, and then you would, here's where I clicked on that, and then I clicked Open. And when you do that, then it uploads. And so I have that uploaded here. But this right here is just Solomon's plain draft. And so what I did, to get this one, is I did kind of like what you did for the previous assignment. I clicked on that, and then I came over here I meant to click on File. Let me go back. And I clicked on File, Make a Copy, and then I saved it as something logical. So I pretended that I was Crystal, and I named it Crystal_Grove_review for _Saul. So what this does is this tells me who the reviewer is, Crystal, which paper is it, the Intergrove paper, it's a peer review, and then at the end, who's it for, I had put review for _Saul. So use a naming convention like that, and then that's the one that you will ultimately make revisions to. I already made a copy of that, and so I'm just going to go into that actual file, and I already made a comment here, just a fake one. But what you want to do when you're going to make a comment on somebody's paper, you're going to want to read their paper first before you make any comments on it at all, just so you can see what did they argue, so you can kind of get a sense of where they're going with it. And then when you start to put comments, you're just going to highlight the part that you have a comment about. And if you're going to comment, like say on the introduction as a whole, maybe you're not tying it to a specific line. What I like to do, if it's a comment about a whole paragraph, then I will navigate to, this bottom part. Trying to find my cursor there. There we go. And I'll just like anchor it maybe to the last word or whatever. And then that pops up, and then I would type my comment there, and that comment bubble will expand as big as it needs to be, and so on. And I'll do that all the way through until I'm done. And then when I'm finished with that file, I'm going to come over here to File, Download, and I'm going to click on Microsoft Word. And I want everybody to remember that not only for this assignment, but for all other assignments in the class, you are always good if you save in Word and you upload in Word. There are a few assignment types where it helps me out or it helps your classmates out if you're also able to save as a PDF. But if that process ever becomes confusing, or if you have trouble, don't even worry about it. Just save as Word, upload as Word. It's always okay 100% of the time. You really want to make sure for this assignment that you click download as Word, because if you do anything else, it can cause problems. So just remember, click on download and download it in Word. All right, and then once you do that, what you can do, if we go back in here, and if you're saving and submitting in Word, this is what's going to happen. So I'm going to navigate over to the column where I loaded something previously. Now you noticed in the peer reviews that I showed you earlier, they had the pink comments out to the side and they were flattened on the page, easy to read. That's because they were saved as a PDF. So this is the reason why I have these silly GIFs over here. Word is always fine, but if you are comfortable saving according to a specific and careful process as PDF, it's useful for your classmates and it's useful for me. But just remember, Word is always fine. I'm going to show you how to do both, and I'm going to show you what it looks like for both. All right, in this case, I uploaded the fake review for Solomon as a Word file, and the only drawback of uploading in Padlet or in Blackboard your reviews as only a Word file is that if somebody clicks on it in the document viewer, it looks like there's nothing there. So if I click on this and I'm Solomon and I'm trying to look and see, why is that grayed out? Let me do that again. Let me click on this. There we go. And I click on this and I think, oh my gosh, Crystal didn't do my reviews. I don't see anything, and I might just make a wrong assumption there. If I go over, however, and download that attachment to my download folder or wherever you want to download it, which I have already done here. And let's see, here is the one that I downloaded. You're going to see that it's here, right? The file, the comments saved here. You just have to, so that's all you have to remember is if you save in Word, you're not going to be able to see it in the document editor or the document viewer, excuse me, in Padlet or in Blackboard, but it's there. You have to download them. So when I get these peer reviews in Blackboard and if they're in Word, I just have to download them to see them. Just because you can't see them in the document viewer doesn't mean they're there or that they're not there. All right, so that's what happens. If you want to save as a Word file, you do have to do it very carefully because there are workflows where you save it as a PDF file and the comments do not come out. So it's a very specific workflow. When in doubt, save it as a Word file and don't even worry about it. But I'm going to show you how it works. So I have already navigated to, so this is what it looks like when I open the file that I created the comments on, and now I'm in the school version of Word, and you can tell that I'm in the online version here. This is my online thing here. I'm in the STC version, which this should be what you see. Now it looks like there's a line through this, but if I want to save this as a PDF, I can come over here to File, and I can click on export, and I can do download as PDF with comments. Now, if I do this, and I'm going to rename this so I know, because I've saved some extra ones here. I'm going to put this as new. So this is new, and so as you can tell, this is the one I'm just now downloading. And you can see it's going to save as a PDF. And I'm going to click on this to open it. And there we go. It's out to the side. So this is useful if you can do that. Now, you should see what I see in the school version of Word. I don't have a higher or better version than you do. So when you do that, and you have pulled it into, now keep in mind, it's not just going to be there. You would have to, inside of Word, you would have to upload it into the school version of Word, and then you would see something like this, and then you would do the export, download as PDF with comments. If you just create a copy and download a copy, it's just going to download a copy of the Word file with the comments, which you could still see them if I uploaded them, but if you were just going to do that, you could just leave it the way it comes from outside of the original process. All right, so let me navigate back in here. That's it. That's the process. You're going to post your reviews here. I'm going to go ahead and erase this fake one so that I don't forget. You'll post them here, and you'll also post them in the assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this because this is the how-to. There's a written lesson for this in the week 2 lessons, or the week 1 lessons. I don't remember which place I put it. And you can look there, but the video for that one is specifically over the other story that I mentioned. This one's updated for the new Google exclusive, the Google Doc exclusive workflow. And so I think this will be more useful to you. All right, that's it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll move this, I'll put this due date at a point where it's manageable for everybody to do. And just so you know, it'll take about an hour to an hour and a half tops to do both reviews. So figure about 30 to 45 minutes per review if you're taking your time and being careful. I think you can probably do a decent job at 30 minutes, but it might take a little bit longer because you're trying to think carefully about what you're putting. It often takes me a long time to put thoughtful comments in that manner, be that thorough on a student's draft. And really, I can only offer that level of service for students that meet with me in person. And in a summer 2 session, I just wouldn't have enough time to do that for very many people. So that's it. That's a wrap. I'm going to get this out. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.